Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and score them based on the store pages. Now, I would like to preface this review with the clarification that while I generally try to keep political discourse out of my reviews and gameplay series, I do believe in essential human rights and the genuine rule of law. In respect to this and in respect to the anti authoritarian intent behind the No Kings movement, this month is going to be dedicated to the dystopian settings portrayed in gaming and the stories of survival and resistance that they represent. For those of you standing up against the powers that would make these dystopias a reality, please be safe and do what you must to return safely to your homes and families. With that out of the way, let's look at one of 2020's most famously hyped game releases, Cyberpunk 2077, created by CD Projekt Red, the minds behind the series of Witcher games, which sets the expectations pretty high for open world, character driven gameplay and narratives. As usual, I have a very limited frame of reference for what we're about to look at here, seeing as I have not played any of the Witcher games, and my exposure to the Cyberpunk game is limited to having seen that Edge Runner Netflix series once. Of course, that is an ideal situation, I think, to judge what we have right here in front of us for the online marketplace. So, let's see. Time to lock in and see what we have to look at here. Oh, crap. What have I gotten myself into? Okay, there are 10 trailers to look at. Well, that is alphanumeric and it is too late to backspace. So, first up is the Ultimate Edition City of Dreams trailer, where we get some glimpses of the incredibly rendered city and characters over some cinematic narration and theme dropping. We get no real look at the gameplay with this one, but the trailer does make up for it by emphasizing the tone and the setting that you can expect to get into. However, I feel like it does fall a little short that it's advertising the Ultimate Edition without really detailing what that is. Sure, it's only about a 90-second trailer, but it comes off as more of the kind of atmospheric trailer that you'd see as a TV advertisement for a movie. That said, like I said, it doesn't really tell us what the Ultimate Edition is. We will see later on in the information on the page that the Ultimate Edition includes the DLC for the game, but at the same time, I would like to see that showcased here if this is an ad for the Ultimate Edition. Like, tell us that that DLC is there. Next up, we have some actual gameplay, including menu splashes and new car, repeatable car races. This is an update trailer about new content and features with a 2.0 overhaul. To top off this update trailer, it does end on a little bit of a splash screen that you would need to pause on to get the full scope of what it's promising, but it really does promise quite a bit for a game that by this point in time, most players have probably shelved, considering it is 5 years old and people have already put in their 100+ hours with this game. It does make sense to make something like this the second trailer in line, but I feel like it would present better if maybe it came after a core game trailer so that you can see the base game and then see what the update is adding on top of that instead of seeing a cinematic Ultimate Edition ad that shows no actual gameplay. Next up, we're going to scroll across where we have an Accolades trailer. Now, it does finish on the same update Phantom Liberty graphic that highlights the DLC, but it does appear to show some actual game. Oh, hold on. No, this is the Accolades trailer. We get some flash in the pan visuals and some decent voiceover work that continues to set the tone, with the text showing major review highlights from different journalism outlets singing the praises of the game that particularly highlight how the game was overhauled a bit ending with an Update 2.0 and Phantom Liberty graphic, giving a little visual flair for the DLC. The next one here, I got a little ahead of myself on my notes. This one is the actual 2.0 update trailer. Now, it does have that same update in Phantom Liberty information, but it does appear to show the gameplay that appears to be part of the high octane speed chase, followed by a combat scenario against what sounds like a law enforcement faction. As a result, we are actually getting a little bit of a highlight of what a fight can reasonably expected to look and feel like while you're playing the game. And honestly, when it comes to trailers, even for a short little, 46-second trailer, this is the kind of thing that I expect to see to set the tone of the game and set the expectations for the players so you know what you're getting ready to get into. Next up is a 3-minute new ways to play trailer. It does get into some of the grittier details of the game, and we actually get to see some weaponry, which is appropriately skinned and outfitted with futuristic technological appeal. In addition to the equipable weapons, we see a small look into cyberware augmentation, part of what makes Cyberpunk what it is. And while the graphics may not make much sense without getting into the full details, it is nice to see the menu that you'll be navigating in game for these features. It does show us that there are several kinds of mechanical implants that can be equipped throughout your body. We do see, like up here, it shows a slider at the top of the screen that said frontal cortex with a lot of extra tabs in there that you could slide through. In addition to the opening of this action packed fight sequence, we get a brief look at the skill tree where you unlock various perks to strengthen your character, complete with the names of the perks flashing across the bottom of the screen, such as Blade Runner and Opportunist. These also appear to be different skill trees that I assume would have some different unlocking requirements, possibly dependent on what kind of implants you put into your character. Given the themes and the setting of the world, at least that's my guess here. I am making some guesses here based on what we're seeing, since we do have to play a little bit of guesswork since we're judging the store presentation. To top this all off, we do see actual vehicular combat that has you fighting off attackers while driving, putting you into gameplay situations where I get the feeling it would be a very awkward thing to control or adapt on the fly in these high stress situations, but in the kind of way that might actually add to the immersion, if you ask me. The vehicular segment of the trailer does appear to offer quite a bit of exciting gameplay, and frankly, I don't think I see a lot of things that look like this in other games, or if it is out there, people haven't talked about it as much. Maybe it's just my own lack of exposure, but I feel like I would have heard or seen something with just some peripheral discourse coming across my vision. Now, in the interest of time, I am going to speed run this little next bit of content. There are 3 trailers shown here on the store page that are build overviews. These feature the developers themselves, 3 separate developers coming in and talking about their favorite build and perks, highlighting the Bullet Time Ninja, the Hack and Slash Netrunner, and the Savage Slugger Solo. They do feature some abilities and perks seen in the other trailers, but they do a lot of service to potential players by filling us in about the specific kinds of things they can do. Out of the 3 shown, I actually think my personal favorite is the Hack and Slash Netrunner, simply for being a bit of a deceptive naming structure. At first, I thought it would be a little too close in theme to the Bullet Time Ninja's melee combat features, given what we traditionally understand the words hack and slash to mean in video games. But it subverts that by instead focusing on hacking your enemies digitally as well as the environment around you. While it does appear to rely a lot on using menus in mid-action situations, the thematic appeal of using your cybernetics to control the world around you, it feels right. Following is a next gen. Oh, no. Next up, an Edge Runners update trailer. One that appears to have been part of a release before the 2.0 overhaul that seems to promote some tie ins to the Netflix series Edge Runners. Considering that Edge Runners was my entry point into the Cyberpunk 2077 universe, this is the kind of thing that would really catch my interest. Knowing that I can see these scenes rendered in the game. They specifically highlight several scenes from the show recreated and rendered in real time, telling me that I get to become an edge runner. It does sound like they're promoting the in game storyline, probably matching the show with its whole cast in Night City. And honestly, I do hope that that is the case. It would be a really cool tie in considering that the cyberpunk setting is exactly the kind of world where you can tell so many different stories in the city outside of a main campaign. Anybody that's played an Elder Scrolls game knows all about that, or even like the modern Fallouts where there's so many side quests and so many things to do outside of the main campaign of the story. Next up is the next gen update trailer. Again, largely pushing atmosphere and tone, but with some footage and narration that we do not see in the other trailers. You know what? I'm giving it points for not overusing the same footage in the promo materials. Though the next gen update really doesn't do much to tell me what the update is about, it does do some lifting to continue that whole tonal shift, the whole tonal setting. Now, our next one. Holy crap, this is a 5-minute gameplay trailer. A whopping 5 minutes that appears to come from the initial release of the game. Now, this is the kind of thing that I would want to have seen in the front side of the page. Narrated by CD Projekt Red themselves to set the tone and to show us what we're in for. Frankly, like I said, this should have been the first or second trailer, though a lot of games seem to have this pattern where the most recent video is pushed to the front of the Steam page, while older videos are constantly pushed to the back. I feel like it should be reversed. Somebody let me know if I'm a little weird for thinking that, where I want to see the base game stuff happening first. But with this, we get to see the character creation, the look of the menus, even if it's only in very short peaks. We also get a clue in here about the core of the game's story and the state of the world for the first time in these trailers, telling us about a war-torn country that led to an overcrowded societal hub of a city. The emphasis goes into the power struggles between business, religious, and political forces, as well as the street level crime and power dynamics that drive the setting that you find yourself in as a mercenary taking jobs to just make your own way. While this trailer does drop a huge reveal about the main storyline surrounding a singular coveted computer chip that you're forced to plug in order to keep stable, it does emphasize the draw of customization and ultimately living your own story, your own fantasy in this technocratic world. Finally, the initial launch trailer of what at least I'm presuming to be the initial launch trailer. To keep this already way too long section just a little bit brief, again, it's following the trend of focusing on cinematic movie like appeal, which for a launch trailer, that's going to be the kind of thing. This would be the advertisement you would see thrown on TV broadcast, movie previews, stuff like that. I do personally prefer the gameplay trailer that we just had before this one. It does a lot more to set the expectations for what I would be playing. Anyway, that's what we have for the trailers. Part 2 of our review is the screenshots. Now on Steam, we're given a whopping 22 screenshots ranging from pictures of characters. We get action moments. We get to see the car customization. We see the character creator. Again, action sequences. But above all, this is the thing I want to highlight here. Above anything else to do with that, there are screenshots depicting single character in front of a cityscape, sometimes surrounded by other moving vehicles and people, as if to remind you that Cyberpunk isn't just about playing a game, but about living in a world that is actually alive around you, where cars are going about their business, cars running that you see right here just in front of a convenience store. Again, action sequences, driving. This is the scene that really stuck out to me. You have all of these civilians just walking around on the street that you get to do all sorts of stuff with. I feel like that does a lot of the heavy lifting for what to expect here. But without getting into too much, I did have to cycle through a bunch of that just to find that screenshot. It is kind of, I do wish the screenshots would maybe be grouped a little bit by theme, but that maybe that's just me thinking a little too compartmentalized or something, where I'd like to see the action screenshots, the menu screenshots, and the scenic screenshots like in separate little categories. It maybe that's just like a little mental organizational thing for me. I don't think it plays too much against the thing. What we do have moving down for part three, we have the store page. Now there is a splash of the Ultimate Edition, but it's just a graphic. Doesn't really tell us anything about the Ultimate Edition like some store pages do. That's a little bit of an issue, I think. About the game tells us now the description section. It's very image heavy and content light. To its benefit, uh, basically anything I could want to know here that could have gone here was basically covered in the trailers, but I think it's still a little bit of a negative that it took until the ninth trailer to really get that core original gameplay information from the base game before the later updates and overhauls were establishing what came after it. So here we have you enter the dark future, become a cyber enhanced mercenary named V, take on the fight for glory and survival in the best selling open world action adventure RPG Cyberpunk 2077. You create your ultimate cyberpunk, emphasizing your character customization, build a unique playstyle by combining perks, supercharged cybernetic implants to become the most unstoppable merc in Night City. Now, they are playing up the power fantasy on this, and I could see two sides to this. On one hand, getting that power fantasy is an absolute plus in games. Like, you want to feel powerful and unstoppable, but at the same time, sometimes you still want a bit of a challenging situation. However, with a game like this, it is that kind of open world setting where going that power fantasy is probably the right angle to go, as opposed to making you underpowered compared to the opponents. Considering that anything in this world that opponents have access to, you would also want to have access to if you can afford it. Since you are in that dystopic world, you want to be able to take advantage of what you can manage. You get to explore the City of Dreams, explore the megalopolis of Night City and its chaotic and colorful cast of characters, all eager to supply you with memorable contracts, quests, and gigs. You forge relationships with a rich cast of characters, all with their own dreams, tragedies, and tales, including Keanu Reeves as rocker boy Johnny Silverhand. Honestly, that that naming that just sounds very Keanu. You enjoy upgrades and enhancements, experience additional quests, cars, quality of life improvements, doing much more added through ongoing updates that improve the game. We do see from some of those update trailers and the stuff, this game is 5 years old, almost 5 years old by this point. No, more than 5 years old by this point. And the fact that they have had an update trailer and a full 2.0 overhaul showing more added content, machinery, um, the full like a whole DLC to go with it, and you can even claim exclusive items. You receive in-game goodies and digital swag inspired by CD Projekt Red's full catalog by signing up to the free to all my rewards program. The fact that they have a rewards program that you don't even have to pay for extra stuff, it kind of leads into that goes into some of the DLC, some of the content for this game, they have bonus content that appears to be the soundtrack and art book things that you would generally buy included as a free perk for this game. And of course, the red mod, you have your modding tools going in as well, also completely free. So a lot to go there with the store description. It's deceptively light on its information, but with the imagery and the little bit that it does show, it is conveying a fair amount, I think. So, part four, the game analysis. Graphically, the game looks amazing. There is no getting around that. We have the futuristic, the screens, the neon that you would expect taking up so much and giving us so much to look at. The the other art, the additional, even the 2D art and everything around it is also just absolutely gripping. Some of the scenes, like the nighttime scenes, I think are just absolutely immaculate. The lights really set the tone and make me feel like I'm in a living world. Seeing people moving around the streets separate that have nothing to do with anything that you have to do with just kind of adds to the immersion of the world. It makes the world feel more lived in, like everybody has their own life and reality to go through. The daytime scenes now, when there's daylight around, a lot of the lighting does make the city look kind of dingy. But again, we are in this dystopic future that gives all of the feel for that. Like you want to feel like you're in this desolate world when you're in this setting. So it's not like that. Like I said, the daylit scenes in the trailers and stuff, they do look a little ugly, but at the same time, I feel like that would be expected of the setting. The sound, now the music really helps to set the tone. I do like the sound. The sounds do sound snappy. The clangs, the voiceover, the voice work. It's just how to describe this without it. Think like you just have this little eargasm when you're listening to it. Shall we say the gameplay? We get now. I've seen games. I've looked at games. I've done some of these reviews where it's hard to tell what the gameplay looks like when you see the trailers and you see some of the screenshots. With Cyberpunk, I genuinely feel like I am getting an accurate picture of what playing the game looks like. They show in the trailers dialogue options, they show your menus, they show character customization, they show skills in motion, they show the driving, they show the combat, they show you a lot in trailers where the longest one is 5 minutes. There's one 5 minute trailer. Everything else is less than 2 minutes. Except, okay, there's a 3 minute trailer, but everything else is like less than a 2 minute trailer. So you're not like sinking a ton of time into trying to figure out if the game looks good to play. There are a lot of the cinematic trailers, but they really step up in the parts of the trailer that show more than the cinematics. The I think this is another thing where the store page really steps above what I see other games do. Where the user interface on the screen, the menus, they do a lot to show you what you're looking at. Particularly here, this is that hack and slash Netrunner trailer where it shows you the splash menu and you're trying to navigate the thing to get your short circuit commands and everything in there, taking control of opponents, making all kinds of things happen in the action of the game. It looks genuinely fun to play. It looks like they show you what you can expect. And it looks like everything is laid out very neatly and cleanly so that you can navigate them easily, especially as you start to get in and learn more about how the game operates and about, what the different stats and menus are going to mean. Finally, the game's pricing. Now, this is the part that can make or break a game. Cyberpunk 2077 is out of the box $60. For a lot of people, that is going to be out of their budget. For myself, that's myself included. This isn't something. Now, it is something that, had I the budget and the time to put into this to justify the cost, I would absolutely pay that $60 price tag for it. Now, there are a couple of other factors here with that price. Like I said, the bonus content and the modding tools are free, but there is a $30 DLC. And I did take a brief look at that DLC. We're not going to go into full details, but I do highly recommend uh, taking a check in there, check the Steam page and everything, and see for yourself what is in there. It's got its own trailers, its own screenshots, and one of the trailers, huge points on the DLC's presentation for having the actors, like the voice actors, in there live presenting the DLC trailer. That is it's genuinely good presentation, and bonus points to the cast of the game for putting that out there. But the Phantom Liberty DLC, it appears to take the kind of approach. Now, I don't know if anybody here is old enough to remember some of the older Elder Scrolls games. I grew up with Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, and that had two expansion packs to it, a Tribunal and a Blood Moon expansion. So those two expansions added like whole zones, whole content, like whole storylines of content on top of the base game. It wasn't anything like, they weren't specifically a post game. They were whole extras, quest lines, and side areas. And Phantom Liberty seems to take that approach. I know there's a lot of people out there who see DLC like this and they're like, why wasn't that just in the base game? But for the content that it offers, it does look like they earned their $30 price tag. Now, again, this would jack up the price of the full game to $90 if you want to get everything together, or get it bundled with the Ultimate Edition. The Ultimate Edition is apparently loaded with Phantom Liberty for $82.78. They do discount it a little bit getting them together, which honestly, I feel like with the DLC and the amount of time and content in this game, I think that's worth it. It is out of my budget. I don't know if I could sink the time into this because given the opportunity, I could sink days and weeks into Cyberpunk and make that $80 to $90 worthwhile. I would personally wait for it to go on a sale just for the sake of my own budget and time constraints, but based on the presentation, it does look like they have that price tag, especially with the updates that I would hope addressed a lot of the early release issues that I believe people had back in 2020 when this first came out. I do remember hearing a little bit of buzz about that, but a whole lot has gone into it to improve the game and add to it since then. But like I said, the Phantom Liberty does appear to add whole lines of content with new characters, new stories, and quite frankly some riveting like political power struggles going on that you will find yourself enraptured in. So, all of that to say, the price, again, looks fair to me. Now, there is another purchase option. I wasn't initially thinking to look at store page differences for this, but the game is apparently also available on the Switch too. Now, I'm certain it's probably on the Xbox and PlayStation as well. It's just this is the online marketplace that I have access to within my immediate vicinity because, I have my little Switch. On the Switch too, it says it has the Ultimate Edition for $70. So the Ultimate Edition is actually a little bit cheaper here than it is on Steam, but some part of me is wondering how good it really will be on Steam. The Steam store page does only show one single Ultimate Edition trailer, and then one, two, three, four. Nope. Wow, that's one, two, three, four, like yeah, five screenshots and a title page, a title card. That's all you get on Steam or on the Nintendo Switch. The presentation on the Switch is very lackluster. I will say that. It while the Steam store page shows a lot to kind of entice me into the game, I feel like the Switch store page is really hinging on the fact that you already know about the game, especially with as little as they show you. You don't see as much of the gameplay that you do see on the Steam page. You just get that one little cinematic trailer and that's about it. So with that, our final little part for the review is where I actually have to rate the game. Now, this is a difficult game to rate. As far as the store page's presentation, I do have my criticisms. I mentioned earlier that I personally think the store page's videos are out of order. I think the initial release trailers for the launch and the gameplay should be up in the front to get that first look of what the core game promises and then follow those up with the updates and the overhauls and the DLC add ons. The $60 price tag is about standard for what I'd expect from a AAA game, especially a studio with the pedigree behind it, such as the Witcher games, which I know are also famous and adored by their fans. So we're looking at a legacy of high caliber producers here. And then the $30 DLC that could break things for some people, but I think based on what I'm seeing in the trailers, the screenshots, and everything, it looks like they have made their value known outside of just branding and pedigree. Like I know some studios, they can get away with pricing on branding alone. Nintendo is notorious for that, and I say that as somebody with their Nintendo Switch here. But at the same time, they do give us quite a bit to go on here to think that $90 for the or well even 82 for the full game probably worth it. $70 for the Switch may even sound like a good deal. I would want to look into some reviews to see how people say it performs on the Switch or to know if I need a better computer in order to get into this game myself cuz I got a little gaming laptop that I got off the shelf. It's not amazing. I mean, you see the videos I produce on this channel. You know what I'm about. So a personal score is a little hard for this. I do feel like they put the work in. It's just some of the store's organization, the store page, it's very graphically heavy, but I feel like the store page, they do a lot to emphasize that you are playing into the world more than having to worry about a main quest. But I think the main quest could use a little bit more promotion. The I didn't we didn't even get anything about Johnny until this little snippet in this little snapshot with Johnny Silverhand in Build Your Legend down at the bottom of the about section and all the way into the second to last trailer. We had to get to the second to last trailer before we even saw Johnny Silverhand. Well, I mean, we see Johnny Silverhand. We see him in the trailers, but all you see is the cinematic and the vibe of the game, the vibe of everything going on around him, as opposed to knowing like who is this? Why do we care about him? I feel like these characters they could emphasize a little more in those cinematic trailers. So with that, I am rating again. Now, again, we are scoring the game based on the store page and its presentation, not necessarily on the quality of the game itself. The game itself looks immaculate. They really put their best foot forward in their presentation. But because of some of these little nitpicks, I'm going to say the store page, again, emphasizing the store page of Cyberpunk 2077, I'm rating an 8 out of 10 because of those criticisms, as opposed to giving it, perfect 10. It's incredibly well presented, but there are some things that I think they could highlight a little bit better. But they do have major points for showing the menus, showing gameplay, and making it look like I know what I'm going to be getting into when I play. I'm saying when because if this game goes on a huge sale, um, that that could be a whole other story. Now, who would I recommend this to? Anybody now, people who like these kinds of highly immersive games, if they like the Fallout, like if they like Bethesda's, if they like Witchers, obviously if you like Witchers, you go for this because it's coming from that studio, especially if you want to experience that kind of live in this cyberpunk setting. If you're a fan, if you're a gamer who's a fan of like Ghost in the Shell and things like that, this would probably be right up your alley because it very much feels like it's that kind of world of cybernetic implants, mercenary work, espionage, all kinds of things going on. So there's definitely an audience for this kind of thing, especially given the popularity of things like Witcher, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. Those are some incredibly famous franchises for a reason. People love those games. They still release Skyrim across every console since it came out over a decade ago. Probably, yeah, more than that. It's probably even older than I think it is. Now, remember, the views expressed here, they are opinions. We all have different tastes when it comes to our entertainment media, and I gladly welcome differing opinions and respectful criticism in the comments. For those of you who have otherwise purchased or played this, like, I mean, you guys don't have to tell us how good it is. It looks amazing from the store page. For those of you who have criticisms about the game, I would also encourage those to be known as well because the healthy discourse is going to have both the positives and the negatives. We're going to be able to, have that information going back and forth, especially when it looks like the developers have put a lot of work out there in order to improve the game from its launch over the past 5 years. I do think that that is incredible. Like a lot of developers, they could just drop a game and leave it as is, but it shows that CD Projekt Red, they care about their product, they care about their players. Even at that price point, like it looks like they earned their money. At least I think so.